all know today the whole world is getting powered by open source. What is the importance of open source in modern world?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're living in a technology-fueled business renaissance. Cloud, data, artificial intelligence, the redefinition of transaction. There is a constant democratization of technology. This democratization allows us as computer scientists to innovate higher orders up the stack, right? You don't have to worry about compute, storage, and network. You get that in the cloud, for example. But what has been driving that democratization? Well, open source, right? Open source has been the fuel, the innovation engine, the skills engine, the level playing field that allows us as a society to build more, to build faster, and move forward. And the rate and pace of that is increasing. But what's really nice about that is that we're doing it in a controlled way, with open governance and leveraging all the work that we do in consortia such as the Linux Foundation.
Open source has become so pervasive that it's hard to think about where it's not being used. Has there been any moment where the community realized that, oh, this is the right path for innovation, for collaboration, for development?
That's a great question. I think there are two, I think, pretty well understood moments and one that is being defined. And I talked a little bit about this here. And let's start with the first one. The first one you think about in the late 80s, early 90s, when as an industry we came together and rallied around things like Linux, Apache, Eclipse, IBM. Our products have upwards of 75% open source in them. We're not leeches. We contribute as much as we use. But we also, back in the 90s, protected open source with intellectual property. That's fueled, that gave people permission. Yep, we can go and contribute and not feel worried about this. That's pivot point number one. Time occurred, and a lot of stardust happened, people innovating. And then what happened, let's say over the past 10 years or so, is we started to create centers of gravity. Centers of gravity around cloud, data, artificial intelligence, transactions, and these centers of gravity came together in consortia with open governance models and so forth. This is really, really, really important because what that allowed us to do was to create an open architecture, an open cloud architecture for all this. And the third is where we are now, and that is the individual.
Right.
Okay. The individual really matters, and there's so many new computer scientists across a diverse set of underrepresented groups. It's exploding. So how we behave in open source is important, and that boils down to being a mentor for others, and that's around code, content, and community. So I think the next renaissance of open source is going to be grounded on our ability to connect those three things and help people accelerate their education process, their ability to connect with others like them, to be mentored, and then do mentoring themselves.
While everything looks rosy right now, but there are some challenges also. Newer companies, they don't understand open source very well, or they cannot compete with cloud. So what is your advice, or do you see there can be some challenges as well?
Yeah, nothing is ever rosy.
Right.
There's always a lot of work. It's blood, sweat, and tears in everything that happens. I mean, the individual contributor doing a pull request, submitting code, a test case, there's a lot of work that's involved. But oftentimes the biggest confusion, just to stick on the company side for a moment, that I see organizations get is they think that open source is something that they monetize quickly. And that's not really it. It's about creating an ecosystem where everybody monetizes and can monetize. And understanding the difference between real open source, which is a meritocracy-based system where everybody can contribute, and something that's closed, is what organizations need to understand very quickly. It is about open governance. It is not about controlling the commit process, right?
Does that worry you also, that we might go back to an age, we can always go backward, when companies may start going proprietary?
No, I don't think so. I think it's the process is pretty well understood, and organizations that adopt the open governance model are successful. And there's just so many of them.
Right.
I mean, just look at all the success. Take the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, stood on stage in OSCON with Jim Zemlin, and my colleagues from Google, and we launched Kubernetes and the whole Cloud Native Computing. Since then to now, you can't walk across the corner without getting hit by a container, right? And talking about Kubernetes or Istio or microservices or something. And so many organizations have become a part of it. So I think there's enough momentum. It's just a matter of folks companies understanding how to behave in that world.
It's kind of just the way our society has evolved. We are not going back to the old, so we will not crawl back to the caves.
Yeah.
Similarly with, how important is open source for IBM?
Well, look, for IBM, it's been in our DNA for a long time, probably more than any other company that I know of. I joined IBM in the mid-90s at IBM Research, and I got involved with open source in the early days, working with Tim Berners-Lee on web standards, working on Linux, working on lots of projects. And it's big for us because that's how we like to create ecosystems and skills, and that's how we drive innovation for our clients, helping clients be productive and the world. In fact, just recently, talking about IBM and the world, we partnered up with the United Nations, the Red Cross, the Linux Foundation, and at this point, close to 60 other organizations, 40 plus celebrities, to launch something called callforcode.org. It's not just about the code, it's just about how you use the code, code for good. And we launched a worldwide hack, which ends on September 28th, 2018. So there's still time to participate, but callforcode.org is a place where developers can create code and submit code and win a contest for good, and the code gets deployed. And this year we're preparing for disasters. So there's lots of great stuff in terms of prizes and eminence and so forth around the contest, but it is, from what I can see, the world's largest hack ever. And it's focused for good. And I think that really puts a good light on open source.
And it's also going to affect people's life directly. It's not just
That's
code
right.
for the sake of code. It's actually, as you said,
You're absolutely right. Think about it. I mean, we're going to put into production the winning ones. If that app or whatever this gets built saves one life, it's all worth it.
Oh yeah, of course.
But guess what? It'll probably save tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands. Right. So it's really going to be worth it. And for IBM, this is a 5-year commitment. We've all gotten together. We're going to do this for 5 years, at least. And so far this year, it's just been incredible. Literally tens and tens of thousands of developers registering, participating, being a part of this. So I encourage everybody. Doesn't matter if you're a developer, a data scientist, or even if you're just a subject matter expert or you care about preparing for disasters, sign up and register, because teams are forming. There's communities, we have little communities that people join, say, hey, I need somebody who's a pro on hurricanes. Oh, I am. They join a team. Because the best teams are multidisciplinary. It's not just for developers.
When you're not changing the world, when you're not doing open source, what do you do in your free time?
I do two things. I code in my free time, and lately, for disaster preparedness, and I play video games. I run a gaming community, and my daughter, myself, we've got about 3,000 people. I'm an avid gamer.
What kind of games do you play?
Everything from MMOs to massively multiplayer online games to first-person shooters. There's 3,000 of us, and I absolutely love playing games, or even creating games, building Minecraft mods, for example. I do that.
I am heavily into open world games, and I'm also into 3D printing. I have a fully open source 3D printer from Prusa.
Oh, right on.
So I have the big giant master sword from Horizon, and then I have Guardian sword, and I have printed a lot of Sawtooth and Thunderjaw from Horizon. So yeah.
Oh, well, then we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we have got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for starting today, and it was a pleasure to talk to you. But I want to make it regular, so that every time you're there, we should talk.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.